We'll never be moved from here. Our lives can live in the seeds we've sown.
Welcome to The Art of Relating, a space where relationship, intimacy, and sacred sexuality become pathways to liberation. Here, every rupture is a teacher, every desire is an opening, and every difference is an opportunity to deeper intimacy. Whether we are unraveling attachment wounds, leaning into conflict with presence, or returning to love as a living practice, this is where we explore what becomes possible in relationship when we choose to stay. I'm your host, Tammy Chow from Somatic Spirit. We just started pressing record, and I told Kate that her hair looks amazing, and it looks very Hobbit, which is... You love Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I do love Lord of the Rings, but if you're gonna get like a creature from Lord of the Rings to look like, you want people to be like, "Oh my gosh, you look like an elf," or like that really pretty girl in it, Arwen. But no, I look like a hobbit. I look like I'm gonna. But that's a cool vibe, I guess. I'm trying to find it. I'm Googling a picture of exactly what hobbit I look like.
I know exactly what Hobbit you look like.
Damn it. I know,
Wait,
but it's like when
is
you
it
look at
Merry
it,
or
it's even
Pippin?
funnier. It's just like both of them, but it's actually really kind
I
of
know.
spot on how much I look like them.
Well,
I'm
if you were still living in Houston, you can get
gonna
a
text it
job
to
at
you.
the Hobbit Cafe.
I've already done that. But also in Houston, this hairstyle could never work because I'd be sweating so much that this part would just get like sweated down. You could never. This is a California only. It's barely hanging on to being
Oh my God.
cute.
I think that it just takes some time
Do
for
you?
you to like figure out the styling
To get used to
and then
it.
for your hair to also
Yeah.
like, I feel like the ends have to like learn how to like gel to like different hairs together. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
They do. Yeah, they have to learn which new clump they're a part of. And they haven't gotten it. And she keeps telling me to like train this part of my hair to come together. So at night I just like clip it together like this and I look even cooler.
Speaking of
It's
the
like,
male gaze, you've really moved on from it, I see. I see you're
yeah,
over
I
the male
have. Like I told
gaze.
you, it's like I don't want to dress or look for a man's approval at all. I got really into that like 2 weeks ago, but now I'm back. I spent $300 on a haircut and
Wait. Sorry. The Hobbit haircut was for the male gaze.
no, actually, it's definitely not. The hair cutter was like a really hot girl, and I was trying to impress her for
Right.
sure. And I think it is signaling, actually, it's signaling it's for the female gaze. Like I'm
Yeah.
getting compliments from a lot of gay looking women, and I think they think like this is saying like I'm gay. And I am, but
Okay, wait.
I
Before we continue,
didn't
let's
realize.
call
Yeah,
our partners because bleeping out their names is like a nightmare.
is annoying. Okay, fine. I hate using
I
partner
know.
as with
What would
straightness
you prefer to
because
use?
it's rude. I don't know. I mean, I use boyfriend, even though I know that's so, I get why that sounds like infantilizing, but I kind of like it. I don't
I know,
know.
yeah.
But you can use
Okay, I'll just say my partner.
whatever, if you want me to say
No, you
partner.
use whatever. I'm just saying I don't want to
Okay.
bleep out their names because it sounds like we're cussing the whole time. Because we also cuss the whole
Yeah, it's
time.
like,
And then,
when fucking, when fucking fuck did fuck, I fucking fuck.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah. Wait, hold on. Before we start, I have to just,
send me the Hobbit photo. Yeah.
sorry, sorry.
No,
Oh,
that's
you did.
exactly what I saw. I just like couldn't keep it in. I was like, you look so. I was gonna say like Mary Pippin, like Hobbit.
You look like Hobbit. Yeah, I do. It's okay though. I was really trying to
It's
get it right
okay. Do
this
you want to
morning,
get a
but
cape
it's just doing Hobbit.
for the rest of the call? Yeah. Do do do. Wait,
I'm having
that's
to use.
Titanic. That's not. What's the Hobbit?
Da-na-na, da-da-na. Oh shit! I really look like Hobbit.
Too bad October's not coming soon because you could dress up
I
for it.
know. Oh my god, that'd be such a cute costume with Frodo too. Might be a
Yes.
little Hobbit gang.
He could be
Well,
Gollum. You could put Frodo and like make him Dobby. Oh wait, I'm really messing up. I just put Titanic
you're
together with
out.
Lord of the
You're
Rings
out there.
together with Harry Potter
And Harry Potter.
into one epic.
Well, they are part of one epic, you know? That's because you are so smart.
Thank you in the spiritual. Yeah, exactly. There
Really.
is no separation.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't really have like questions today, but I know that you were really excited to talk about this topic. So I want to open it up to you to see what you were excited to talk
Mm.
about.
I did have a lot. Like we were texting a lot, and you and I were kind of like in this exchange a couple weeks ago, and I feel like this topic was just like very in the air for a lot of women in particular, maybe women our age that we know. And so like it felt like really hot. And now it kind of feels like not that it isn't still like very alive, but you and I have been like kind of unpacking different levels of nuance in our relationships.
I feel like this was spurred on by all the fucking Epstein stuff, which I feel like has just disappeared off of my
Yeah.
entire feed, which is like so
Oh,
crazy.
I mean, it has, you're right, it's been a lot less. Like it was really on the news for a minute, and then it was like very, when the war with Iran started, a lot of, memes were saying, like, oh, Trump's doing all this just to
Right.
get the attention off the Epstein files, which is very cynical, but like seemingly true because you're right. People are not talking about it, and there's as much anymore. But I think it's still like, for example, with the Bachelorette stuff, which we were going to talk about too. I think like I've seen a lot of like discourse on the internet about just like we will hold the Bachelorette to a higher standard than every single person named in the Epstein files. So even though like I guess it's not as much in the consciousness like present right there, I feel like it's something that we're not going to get over as a society. I think what hits so hard for maybe you and me and so many of us is not only does it have like real, it feels like very connected to experiences we've had in our lives, it also is like that kind of like that moment of being like, I've been saying this, just
Yeah.
like we have been saying this and being called ridiculous for centuries, I guess, just that like people in power will use their power to sexually prey on young and vulnerable people. And sometimes that feels really hopeless too. I'm about to go off on the Catholic Church.
I feel like if we had done this 2 weeks ago, what would have been really alive is like the pedophilia or attraction to women and my father wound and all that stuff. But like where like I am right now presently is like the seductress archetype as a result of like
Hmm.
being, I hate the word victim, but like kind of like a victim of the male gaze like my entire life. And
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like I could like feel the part of my podcast host brain being like, let's start from the beginning. What is the male gaze and how were we harmed by it in our
Hmm.
upbringings? How did our fathers harm us? But I don't like what's really like loud for me is the seductress archetype. And like you had done your
Hmm.
one woman show last year,
Yeah.
and both of us, I mean, I think so much of our friendship has been this fucking epic of being like crazy sluts who have been slut shamed and like on this wild odyssey of
It's the Hobbit part 4.
should I get my hair cut?
Yeah.
This time there's an Asian
We're
hobbit to
sluts,
just
but we're also hobbits.
finally there's a BIPOC person in Lord of the Rings.
Well, it's just like there's like the three hobbits, and then there's this one other whole random movie where there's just the two of us, like just fucking everybody, and everyone's like, "No, this is not what like the movies are about. You're supposed to be fighting orcs," and we're like, "No, we're gonna find another king to fuck."
We were not fucking kings. We were
But
fucking
they weren't
orcs.
kings.
We were
No,
fucking orcs in our
we were fucking
20s.
orcs, really, and worse. Honestly, like that's kind of insulting to orcs.
Okay, okay. But my point is, okay, there's some
Uh-huh.
curiosity for me like here. Oh, it's so layered. It is really hard to put into words. Okay, the seductress archetype.
Yeah.
Let's see. I always like found it interesting that promiscuity is like a result of being sexually violated and how
Hmm.
that became my trauma response from rape or the male gaze was like I just got my sovereignty taken away and like the only way that I could figure that out when I was 14 was become like this seductress like at a very early age to be
Hmm.
and start to like make innocent boys fall in love with me, take their virginities, and then like rip their hearts out by cheating on them. Like, I had that pattern
Mm-hmm.
from like 14 to 16.
Yeah.
And then, and then I had my 20s of us dating orcs, but thinking, these men in power were kings. And there was like some way of me
Yeah.
gaining value or power from that because I had been taught that that means that I have power. But it's like I was doing the quote unquote seducing, but I was
Mm-hmm.
actually being seduced and I didn't know that the whole time. And then
Yeah.
now that I've been like on this whole journey and manifesting my divine union partnership, sacred love, I'm being asked to like be in a committed relationship. And suddenly my seductress is like, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? Like, I can't like,
Yeah.
like I've worked on it so hard, but now suddenly like there's this part of me that's like freaking out. That's like, terrified of
Yeah.
losing this power. I was just saying, like, it feels like this weird catch 22 because we have both been violated like many times, but then became like the masters of
Mm.
seduction. And so it gets like, it's just so tangled and confusing, you know?
Yeah, well, definitely. And you had written that really, really beautiful Substack last month, I guess. It feels like a long time ago, but I thought I loved there was like a line that you had in there that was like, I'm standing at the crime scene and the only fingerprints are mine,
Mm-hmm.
which is really good. And as you're like telling, kind of retelling that story just now, I'm thinking like how cool of your younger self without any tools or like training, you took the thing that was like harming you and you made it a power. And yeah, you can say, like, I hurt people because it's like there's the one thing of like hurt people, right? We like pass on a legacy of the abuse that's been done to us. But then there's also the thing of like kind of owning seduction. I guess I'm wanting to separate that from like kind of maybe how you characterized it with like kind of hurting people or breaking their hearts or something. Like I think there was a part that both of us, we wanted it to be our power and we wanted it to be something we were doing, even though we weren't. I don't know. Sorry.
That's why
I
it's
don't know, man.
confusing.
I'm
See,
sorry.
as soon as we start talking about
Yeah.
it, the trauma is literally like a fun house of mirrors. Like it's like hard to like parse
Mm-hmm.
apart. But I think, okay,
Yeah.
and because like Awakening the Wild Woman is coming up, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
so many of the themes are parts of my journey of like what I've discovered in my healing. And there was like the first stage journey of like reclaiming my sexuality, of like reclaiming the sacred slut, right? Marrying God and sexuality again. And then the second stage, which you witnessed me in, was the seductress, like reclaiming the seductress. And I think there's something really
Mm-hmm.
powerful about that after like being
Mm-hmm.
slut shamed and after also feeling so victimized by rape and being taken advantage of by different men in power and friends of men that I really trusted. But there's something about getting to fully, like, it's very existential kink and it's very like intentional hedonism is like to get to fully embody our seductress. Like, there's something really empowering
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Yeah, because I guess that's like untangling it. Like the seductress is there's nothing wrong, bad, harmful about seduction from either a man or a woman towards either a man or a woman there. And so that's what I think we're like having trouble untangling here a little bit, because like seduction for us since childhood was always like imprinted and entangled with abusive power and codependency and like ownership and these things that we then unconsciously repeated and then consciously repeated into our 20s before we kind of like had this moment where we were like we can't do this anymore. And then you're talking about also like resuscitating the seductress on its own, like you're reminding me of how you mentioned and you kind of asked me to reread the chapter about Parvati last month. And I've been thinking a lot about Parvati and Radha and like these goddesses and
In
archetypes from
Awakening
mythology.
Shakti, just context in
Yeah, and
Awakening
Awakening
Shakti.
Shakti and yes, sorry, yes, in the book Awakening Shakti by Sally Kempton, but also just in the like pantheon of, world folklore, like both male and female deities have this persistence and like this idea like I'm going to go after this love and I'm going to get the object of my love through, yoga, meditation, through seduction, through, almost obsession. And so like there is something about those like energies themselves that is actually like quite clean and beautiful as much as any other energy sort of that we can access. So I think it's really cool to like separate those things out,
What
um,
things?
like seduction from like harm, abuse, power,
Right.
those kind of things.
Oh, wow. That's really helpful. Thank you. I've been talking to my partner, and he brought up a term from SLA, from like Sex and Love, Addicts
Mm,
Anonymous, which there's a term called seduce and betray. It's so funny because I was like
mm,
so against having to identify anything near SLA because, our lineage is like Tantra and like we don't suppress sexuality
mhm,
and we also don't shame it. But getting to know the terminology and the whole work of SLA is actually quite beautiful, and I feel like could have been really beneficial in my journey. I just figured it out a different
yeah,
way. But seduce and betray,
yeah,
and I was like, oh, that's like what I've done, a lot of my life is like
mm,
seduce and then betray. Like I don't know that I ever really had an open heart in it. It was like me
mhm,
becoming the predator, me becoming the person who's
mhm,
making conquests on
mhm,
men. And
yeah,
so now that I'm in this place where I've been calling in like this divine union, like sacred partnership, and it's staring me in the face, I'm like, fuck, I actually have to be
yeah,
vulnerable. I, like, yeah. So what you're saying about separating the power and the control from the seduction is actually like, that makes a lot of sense. Like there's traces still of the power and control in me that
mhm,
make it hard
yeah,
to fully be in
yeah.
a committed relationship.
Yeah. And I think honestly, this is kind of like what is alive for both of us right now and might be the most interesting like vein to go into just because like I think they're connected. Like all these things. You wanted to talk about the male gaze initially and like its impacts on our like bodies and psychology. And I think this is such a huge impact. And it's something that we were really sitting with a month ago and have kind of touched on already, which is like the way that like we carry the predator around with us after their work is done. And yes, in a lot of ways, that means enacting some of the things they've done to us onto other people. And I want to kind of set that aside. I don't want to deny that happens and that we have done that. And I just think that's kind of like a different kind of conversation, which is like about like culpability in general, which
What
is
does
very
that mean?
interesting. But I like blame and who's at fault and
You mean like if we were
because
to have a whole
we
conversation about how we've been harmed by the male gaze and the eating disorder stuff, and or like you're
yeah, and just to like I mean to really like really zoom out and think, I mean, if we ourselves can understand that we unconsciously and then consciously perpetuated some of the crimes of control, abuse, violence, codependency that were enacted on us, then we know that the people who are in power and enacting these in the worst ways were themselves victims at some point. And that doesn't excuse them at all. But once you start thinking like that, it starts to become much less interesting to think about blame, I think, and much more interesting to think about like the system itself that is sort of perpetuating and enabling abuse. So that's why I want to set that aside because I just think that's like a structural conversation, I guess,
mm-hmm.
but we can go to it if you want to. But what I really want to talk about is just like the way that we carry the predator around in like our mind. In like you and I are both really trying to be in like healthy, devoted, loving partnership.
Sorry.
Why is that funny?
I just get like a flash of us at like at every cafe or bar talking about relationships, and now being in our 30s finally be like, we're both really trying to be
And
in
we're doing it.
healthy relationships and no longer egging each other on to fuck orcs.
Yeah, but even then we were like, this is really healthy. This is going to be.
It's for
So good.
research.
This is, yeah, it's for research. Yeah. So I guess like, just like the way that, like, it's just been coming home to me so much now. I think I've been through like very big movements with my boyfriend in terms of like the main demons, kind of like, okay, push those to the side. But then just finding, or not pushing them to the side, but whatever. But like, now just finding like how in like small things and every misunderstanding and every time that what he does doesn't exactly line up with what I'm expecting, how much I'm expecting to see a predator there, or how much I'm expecting to see that he's actually trying to cause me harm, and how freaking hard it is to like work with that and to be like, yeah, like holding these two truths, like this person is not doing that to me, but like it really sucks that that is so
Mm.
built into my system, that so many men and so much of the system that I was raised in and the family system and all of that kind of taught me to just take this and to expect it and to work around it. And I think that's where like you and I are both feeling a lot of like anger and resistance. And I don't know, I think there has to be space for that anger because it's important to get to the point where we can really be open to love from a man. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, it is like, this is one thing I wanted to talk about all this last month. I don't know why I haven't brought it up with you. I think I thought I was going to say it here on the podcast, but just that I started wanting to make like an anthology little film series about just like the experience of being a woman. And because, my short film, You Should Be Ashamed of Yourself, that I'd met with a filmmaker and she really liked it. And, a lot of women respond to that because it describes like a really specific kind of experience. Anyway, this filmmaker was like, you and some other people should make like a series of shorts like this and then put them
Yes.
together and make like one big movie about it and go and take it
Ugh.
on the road and like have screenings and have conversations, which I really want to do. So I was going to say, like, I want to write a couple more. And if you have any ideas, like,
Yes.
we could, I mean, I'd love for, your perspective to be
Oh
in
my
that and to
God.
make a
I'll go
story.
on the road with you. I'll be your groupie. We could do like group
Yeah,
process with
exactly.
women.
Yeah. Oh my God. You can be the interviewer for all of
Yes. Oh
the
my God. We
talks
could do
after the,
like
oh my
actual
God.
group processes on it. This would be like
Yes,
incredible.
yeah, it could be really amazing because that's what happens when I screen You Should Be Ashamed of Yourself. It's like, I get a line of women and sometimes
Yeah.
men like after the screening who are telling me just about their experiences with something like this.
Well, can you just
Um,
tell the listener just like what it's about?
Yeah, it's just a really simple short film of two sisters sitting by a pool one day in the summer, and the younger sister's trying to talk to her older sister about the older sister's husband who has been kind of grooming her and sexually assaulting her. And this is really based on my own experience that's very similar, not with my sister, but with my friend's older sister who felt like family. So, but I really wanted the movie to be just about the two women and not really about the men because I wanted to like portray the ways in which a woman, like, we're trained to like gaslight ourselves and already kind of we're trained to doubt our own perceptions, doubt our own experiences, to defer to the masculine. Like something you mentioned in your Substack article, it was so spot on. You were like, I walk into every room and I just scan for the men. And I noticed that, like, I still do that. I'm still looking for, like, who has power in this room.
Mm.
And, like, let me make sure I know where they are so that I can, whatever, use that to my advantage in some way. So anyway, so that's the short, is just really like the younger woman is trying to tell the older woman and the older woman keeps, saying, well, like, I don't know, is it really what you thought happened? And, you were wearing that kind of like slutty swimsuit and,
Mm.
and that movie, like it didn't get into any film festivals. Like even a producer that I wanted to work with didn't want to make it because she thought it like wasn't feminist. Like it's something that
Mm.
I guess people like aren't ready for, but whenever I do screen it, again, like lines of people who are like, I had that experience. I even had an older man come up to me and say, that happened to me once. I was a young kid and I was hanging out with older people, and my friend's wife did that to me. So, like, it's not just women too. It was just really amazing that that conversation has been had, and I love that happening because it's also nuanced. Like at the end of that film that I made, the girl goes back and she's leaving, and the husband comes out and he kisses her and she kisses him
Mm-hmm.
back.
Right.
And I always get these questions from guys, especially who are like, wait a second, I was really confused. Why did she kiss him in the end if she didn't
Right.
want it? And it's like,
Yes.
well, that's like the whole thing I'm trying to show you. But no woman has ever asked that question. And I'll kind of like I talked to this one guy after a film festival, and I was like, yeah, it's like she, her perception has been so called into question. She doesn't know what she wants, and this is like the strongest force in the room, and so she goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, oh yeah, I get that. So anyway, recently I had this idea for another one, which is like a horror film where it's like a woman and is trying to be in a relationship with a man, but she keeps seeing like this demon or this monster like crouching on his shoulder, but he can't see it. And so she's like reacting as if there's like this horrifying monster, and he keeps being like, what is going on? But only she can see it. And that monster, like embodying this very, it's hard to say it's like a projection because it is a real fear. I mean, and again, that goes back to the Epstein stuff that we were talking about. It's like, we're not crazy. We're not crazy. Look, like,
Right.
first of all, like the people in power behave this way. And even if you yourself have never interacted with an Epstein or a leader of state or like whatever, or a head of a fashion line or something, you still like that was the way the behavior was modeled. And so like every person of power that we grew up with, even if they were running like some bullshit little stupid company, that was still how they
Mm-hmm.
thought they were supposed to behave, and that's how they behaved. And
Mm-hmm.
so we, I think many of us experience like a system of power that sort of reveled in having control over bodies and minds of people, and mocked weakness. And I don't know how to even sum it up, but I just know that that monster that you and I are seeing that's making it really difficult to let down our walls and be in relationship, it's not, we're not crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
the men in our lives right now are not doing it to us. So in that way, we are not seeing reality. But I don't want to just say like, oh, we just have to like get over that, because like that monster we're seeing is it's real sight, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the man, it's not your man or my man, but it is a force that's very here
Mm-hmm.
and very real. And, you know,
Yeah, as you're speaking, what's coming to me, kind of the visual is like this like outer big ring that's very like gaseous and like it's like the meta of it, which the systemic issue is there's like the divine masculine. It's like the wounded masculine is still our governments, what's like ruling
mm,
and driving some cruelty and just whatever word I'm looking for, cruelty and like whatever. I'm just saying like the divine masculine has been distorted in an energetic like, but then on the
mm,
personal it gets confusing for us. So if that's like the meta and that's more ethereal or something, and then
mm-hmm,
you get personal into our relationships, which you and I have been working so hard on healing and trusting men and learning to receive and have attracted partners into our life that are amazing. And then like not so much with my partner now, but my ex of 6 years, like I went through that dark night of the soul of like, he was coming to me earnestly to talk about porn and like his guilt around that and what came
mm-hmm,
up in his somatic therapy sessions, and I thought I could hold it, but then it hijacked me into like, 2 months of fucking like uncontrollable freeze and reaction and projection where I just felt like suddenly this person who I projected was this like safe savior was like the perpetrator in my bed. And that was like,
mm,
like it was uncontrollable for me. And
mm-hmm,
and and, and, it,
yeah,
and it was like this ancestral layer of like hysteria, quote unquote, because I
uh,
was crazy during that time. I was like
uh,
hijacked into like the suicidal stuff, like, and it felt very much like my entire lineage of women who have been like raped and tortured and whatever else, burned alive at the stake. And so it's like the systemic to the personal, right? And then on social media or in conversation, it gets so convoluted because then men are all getting triggered who are good men, and they're like, not all men.
Yeah.
And then that pins us against each other, which is like what the systemic wants. The systemic wants the men and women pinned against each other when we really need to be coming together to like
working together.
heal the systemic, right? And then something else that you said, which like it's so helpful when you talk about your own story and like the movie that you made, and like the end scene where she's like trying to tell her friend who's older that like her husband has basically been grooming her and having an affair with her. And then she walks out of the pool, and then she like has this like intimate moment with him and kisses him in the end. And that was so much my fucking confusion with like, and trigger warning for anybody listening, like this is details of my own sexual assault that took me, I don't know, 15 years to unwind, and it's still always unwinding in different layers. But my high school sweetheart, was totally in love with him, and he was the guy that I never thought I could be with. Like, this kind of guy likes me, and we were so like romantically in love. It felt like a fairy tale. Like everybody around us was kind of like gagging because they're like, oh my God, we were like best dressed. Like I was most fashionable.
Always.
He was
like, oh my God.
fashionable.
Yeah.
But is it because you were jealous or were you just like grossed out?
I wasn't jealous, but I wasn't grossed out. It just was like, it was just like, wow, these two really
I think looking back now, it's like
are cute.
Well, dealing with the trauma at home, I think like my fantasy to like latch on to the first savior man, boy that I could find,
Yeah, he wanted to be like molded too in that way that you molded him, I think.
Yeah. We were too young to know about trauma or any of that back then. But
no,
I was so in love with him. And that's when my Seductress was still running the show too, because any good thing that happened to me, I needed to sabotage it. So like I also cheated on him with like some guy that was like not cute at all, and like destroyed the trust with him. But that was my pattern of like, I'm going to fuck you up before you hurt me. Like nobody can hurt me. Yeah. And then so that relationship was crazy, and I put him through hell, and I was like so bulimic and stuff. And then fast forward to like me going to college freshman year, and I came back with like my fake ID from New York, and I threw all these parties, and he invited his frat friends, like two of his frat brothers. I'm telling you this, but I'm really telling the viewer this. Obviously, Kate knows like the fucking Kate has heard this.
Yeah, but it's interesting to hear you retell it.
Oh, really?
So, yeah,
okay, cool.
Yeah, just the way you're telling it, I'm kind of interested in. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and like I think then, I mean, I had so much trauma of being, growing up with the trauma of trying so hard to be white and never quite getting it because I couldn't get a race change. In Texas, like coming back from New York, I had like a new mask, like a new identity I could come in with, which was like the cool smoking fashion girl who had a fake ID, who could like buy alcohol for everybody to throw a party. And yeah, that night he was with me the entire night, and I was like so overjoyed because I was like, oh my God, this is the love of my life. It's my high school sweetheart, and we're totally getting back together. Like this is the moment that we're going to get back together and live happily ever after. And at that time, I did black out every time I drank. Like I just couldn't figure out limits. And I also like out drinking the boys was something I thought was really cool.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. I can have 10 makers on the rocks. Can you? Like, what?
We thought that was so cool.
And so I do remember us going to my bedroom, and we had sex. And that's all I remember. And then the next day, him and his friends, his two friends, were helping me clean the house. And they were like snickering. And I was like, why are you laughing? And then they basically told me like, oh, there's this trick that he plays this trick on girls like at frat parties called run train, where like one
Yeah.
guy goes and has sex with a girl when she's unconscious, and then like the next guy will go, and then the next guy will go. And they were laughing because I was saying my ex's name, I guess, apparently, when he had like walked into the room and had sex
My
with me
God.
after. Yeah. And
Mm.
in that moment, like I've had to slow this down and do so much processing around this, but in that moment, like when they told me, I had two choices. How are you doing? I'm noticing
Yeah, no,
you.
I'm just taking that in. Yeah.
Yeah, do you need a moment?
No, no, I mean, I'm just like taking that in, but
Okay.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. In that moment, I had a choice to stand up for myself, which are my natural instincts, which is like the rage that we do in women's work is like, where is that fucking energy?
Mm-hmm.
And probably would have been my pelvis. It was in my chest, like to basically like lash out, kill someone to defend myself. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that energy, instead, I made the choice for attachment because if I were to
Mm-hmm.
choose my rage, I would have no friends in that moment. I'd have no protection. But of course, like these men were supposedly my
And it would also make
protectors.
it true, by the way, that they had harmed
Exactly.
you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, my mind is like, well, these are my protectors. These are the people that like love me and protect me. I'm not going to believe that. And instead, I chose to be the cool girl and be like, laugh along with the joke and be like, that's funny. That's
Mm-hmm.
fine. You know, like everything's
Mm-hmm.
cool. And just like imagine that amount of righteous rage, like coursing through my body, like being stopped in that moment to be masked by this facade
Mm-hmm.
in order to fit in and to maintain
Mm-hmm.
attachment. And then here's where the seductress layer comes on is um I think they were still hanging around, like it was like Christmas break or something for the week after. So I just kept hanging out with them and I kept sleeping with him. I thought I was like
Mm-hmm.
seducing him by like,
Mm-hmm.
sleeping with him, in my
Mm-hmm.
processing later understanding like it was just so that I wasn't a victim, so that I like maintained some sense of
Mm-hmm.
power and control.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's been the confusing thing, is
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
like I did it to myself and I kept doing it afterwards.
Right. I mean, yeah. Well, thank you for, sharing that again. And it's just like, I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but still, it's just such a painful story because I know that it's like the violation is one thing. It's very real and and it's interesting that it gets in this storytelling. It's like, oh yeah, then that happened. But really the worst thing is that the next day when I fawned to them, which it's like a self-violation, but I just want to like notice that even in you telling the story, and it reminds me of what I was saying earlier of that like meme of like we're holding the Bachelorette to a higher standard than every person in power, every NFL player, every, you know, all these different people because like as women it's like we're still, and maybe that's too big of a generalization, you and you particularly, you're very self, like you want to always be better, you always want to grow, you always want to be doing the right thing, so you're very, self-analytical and like where could I have done things differently and all of that, and that's really nice and good, but also it's like there's this thing in your story that I just keep hearing like, oh, I didn't know limits. I wasn't good with limits, so I was always getting blackout, like X, Y, and Z, where I can imagine like a guy telling a story about college and not having any of those caveats or like asides,
Right.
just being like, oh man, I was hanging with the boys and I used to get blackout back then. Oh, it's so funny. And everyone would be like, oh yeah, that's our boy. And it's just like, there's so much in even the way you tell that story now, even though you have so much power, so much awareness, so much distance from yourself as victim, where it's still, the story is not someone I loved and trusted. Because by the way, I was also, you told the whole story of your ex, and I put him through hell was a sentence that you used, which you were 16-year-old, you both didn't know what you were doing. And that is part of relationships, again, at that age. And so there's still so much where you're like, ah, I could have done this differently. I could have done this differently. Yes, and that's maybe true, and that's great. But someone I loved and trusted, who I thought was the love of my life, betrayed me, and then his quote unquote friends violated my body. And, I know that I don't mean to say that that's how you have to say it, but just like a crime was committed. A crime was committed,
Hmm.
period. And that's the thing where it's like we move past that so quickly in these conversations because it feels so hopeless to almost like do anything about that fact. Like it sort of is
Totally.
this like sunk cost in our minds, like that's what's going to happen. Boys will be boys, or that's just the
Hmm.
way things are. And I think what you and I were both feeling so much like last month, a big part of it was like when the Epstein files were coming out and it was like such a big news for a minute. It was like, finally, like, we're not going to be able to look away from this, right? Like, we're going to
Right.
call a spade a spade. This is a crime. A
Right.
crime occurred. It's too obvious. It's in black and white. They typed out the words, I will fuck that child, or I will eat that child, or whatever, And
There's
I don't
video
know.
footage of all
It's,
of the 14-year-old girls saying that they had intercourse, and like it's
yeah.
just endless evidence.
And yeah. And I don't, and it keeps like it elides away, it like slides off again and again and again and again and again in this way that's so, and yeah, like I think it's a very, very productive conversation to have as women in a realistic sense of like, where's my culpability? How can I, all the stuff that you and I, the work that we do on ourselves. And I think it's so good. And I don't want to discredit that, but I think like I'm just feeling this big thing come up in me right now of like a need to hold space for like, a crime happened,
Yeah,
and it happened to you, it happened to me, and it doesn't matter how you reacted or what in the aftermath or in the lead up to it, a fucking crime happened. And like, where are the consequences, And I think when we had that, there was in our women's group, there was like a moment where our teacher was sort of like in a joking but maybe not joking, very serious way too, was like, you guys should Venmo your exes and ask them for money because of all the harm they caused you. And I feel like you were kind of wanting to do that with this person that you mentioned. And I think, in the end, that was probably coming from that sense of like, where's my justice? Like
totally.
when
Yeah,
like I still, it's still, where is it? Like,
right.
and yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling that right now.
Yeah, thank you. I am too. And for context, like it was kind of a joke. Me and Kate are in our teacher Adriana's body temple community, and I like private messaged her. I was like, "Do you think I should like Venmo request Dom for raping me? Like, should I just request like 30 grand? Like, and then like for the subject,
Yeah.
literally just put rape?" And I like there was something that came alive in me, like this like crazy
Yeah.
maniacal like witch that was like, because like I
Yeah.
I know that there won't be justice otherwise, you know what I mean? And suddenly there
Yeah.
was like it's like if I could just like torture him a little bit cuz like he just popped up on my Venmo the other day and I could see his photo with him and his wife, and it's this like dark feminine part of me that's like, "Hey, I'm going to
Yeah.
fucking make your life a living hell." Which obviously I'm
Yeah.
not going to do because I am a responsible practitioner and I but like, and
Well,
then I
yeah.
I asked my yeah, I really appreciate that. And like, even when we speak to that part, there is nothing but a bubble of rage in my throat and my chest, and it is justified and it
Mm,
is righteous, and I understand the conversation, like even when it comes up with my best guy friends or my partner, when they're sort of like, okay, but when are we going to move past the rage piece in order
mm,
to create a different world? Which I agree, we want to create a different
mm,
world and balance the masculine and feminine, and we need our good
mm-hmm,
men. And I
mm-hmm,
also can see it from their perspective how they have been victimized by women who spewing their vitriol, myself included, to my ex,
mm-hmm,
in
mm-hmm,
uncontained rage. So they've been a victim of this issue too. But
mm,
there is something that, like the more that they're like, not all men, and like, when can we move on from the rage and start making repairs? The fucking piece that needs to be acknowledged is there's nothing being acknowledged that this
yeah.
has happened to me. There are no
Yeah.
repercussions. Like,
Yeah.
what? Like,
Right.
and
And like
and
the offerings of, yeah, of repair are never even close to being enough. And I feel like it's always handled like, well, we did something or whatever, you know?
well, yeah. What do you mean we did something?
Like, sorry, I know I'm having a hard time because I want to be specific, but also this is so generally like this has happened personally, professionally, interpersonally,
Can you be
politically,
specific?
like what we're talking about, like this sort of like ping-ponging effect of like a real abuse happening of a person like a victim or who then wants something done about that, and then the perpetrator or the class that that perpetrator belongs to giving some being like some acknowledgement, but then being like, let's just move on, I
Right.
guess maybe that's what I'm trying to, like, the thing you are illustrating. Like, I feel like it's hard to be specific because I can't pick which event I really want to narrow down on, because it's like, are we talking about workplace sexual harassment? Are we talking about relationship violence? Are we talking about pedophilia? Are we talking, but are we talking about rape? Are we talking about abuse, like physical violence? And I don't know why I have this desire to like lump them all together because I know they're not all the same thing, but there is this like pattern of like what you're talking about and what we're talking about and what felt like just happened with Epstein files. It happens again and again where it's like yeah, like there's a rush to move past it because we can't look at the crime itself,
Ooh, I mean,
actually.
this is all radical aliveness work. Like this is the training that me and Kate did
Mm,
this last year, and we're all in the room talking
yeah,
about huge systemic issues like Israel Palestine and BIPOC,
yeah,
stuff. And like there's it's like the problem, I mean, everybody knows this, everybody sees this on social media. The problem is when we're so quick to point fingers and judge and then ask why can't the other side move on from their pain without like
yeah,
and on a personal level, you and I and our relating and our relationship have just found how to hold space for each other so that that charge dissolves, but by being
mm,
with each other and not being like, okay, can you just get over it, and
yeah,
like that's what's
yeah,
happening in, and it's not, it's the fact that our fucking government has covered up the biggest, one of the biggest crimes in all of history, like the biggest sex trafficking ring in the world, and nobody is in jail for it. No, our president of the, our
guess who's in jail for it?
who?
A woman, a fucking
Yeah,
woman.
exactly.
The one person they put in jail is Ghislaine
The president
Maxwell,
of the United States is causing wars in other countries after fucking 14-year-old
murdering
girls
people.
murdering. He is a murderer and a rapist. And our quote unquote free country is ruled by this. So, like, yes, of
Yes.
course, we are going to be crazy right now. And that is a
Right,
justified reaction to something that is
right,
fucking insane. And, like, the good
right.
men, if you're
It's
listening to my
insane.
podcast, I don't know if good men listen to, I mean, I think they do.
I
If you're listening,
hope
it's
so.
not at you.
James.
James
Yeah.
is too busy having a baby,
James,
like a
this is for you.
sacred love
Oh,
child. A bit, not like a
God.
love child, but like a
How
child of
nice.
love.
A child of
Um,
love.
yes.
Yeah.
Like like we're not, the rage is not directed at you, and don't take it personally. And we know that it triggers your
Right.
mommy wounds, your
Right.
sister wounds, and all of the
Right.
quote unquote crazy women that you've dated in your past that have been institutionalized. I know. And
Yeah.
like I get that you've been harmed by the system too,
Oh,
men, but when we are raging, it is for lives of young girls
good.
and for good, and we need you to just like stand next to us
It's
and
for all of us.
be enraged
Yes.
too. We're not yelling at you, and
Yes.
just like we can
Yes.
see your little boy. You don't deserve vitriol. We love you. I'm not saying you're bad
Yeah.
and wrong. I could see the work you've done to
Yeah.
be a good man, but can you stand with me against crime?
Yeah. Like against crimes, against
Yeah,
just
against
basic
crimes.
crimes. Yeah. And that's like the thing that I think we've talked about this before, and I didn't intend or expect this to go into like a kind of like what's wrong with men thing. And I don't mean it that way, but like it does come back to me again and again. It's like, where is that righteous anger from men? You know, it's something that was characterized to me my whole life as sort of like the highest form of masculinity is
Mm.
righteous protective anger. Like that, you know, we may not be perfect or sensitive, but we're gonna fight to defend you was kind of like the pitch that I feel like I got from masculinity. And all that is just such bullshit, you know? And I get it. They don't have a roadmap and it's fucked up and confusing. I don't know, you know, how to navigate that personally. But I just wonder, like, yes, like, and I don't think it's the men's fault. I really think that, like, culturally, we've been very trained out of, like, actually looking at the crimes and in a way that I think it's almost entered, like, our shadow consciousness. This is why most, like, the most average, well meaning, like, Midwestern normal people that you'll ever meet in America, they'll stay up at midnight and watch serial killer documentaries. These are
Mm-hmm.
like, have you ever noticed that? Like, some of the most
Oh
like
yeah.
mild-mannered, normal people are watching that shit. And I'm like, I can't watch that. I have too much shit in my daily life. Like, I don't want to fill my brain with that. But it's almost like I think it's like it represents like a lot of that has entered like our shadow as like a culture.
Mm-hmm.
And because we have so pathologically refused to look at the actual crime and it's something that like you get sort of chided for, like let's move on to the healing, or this is not good for society for us to be doing this because you know it's upsetting a lot of people and we should just move on, you know. And just like we've kind of like and of course you know we could just list crimes forever, but like just very recently the United States was a big part of massacring people in Gaza, in, you know, other parts of the world as well. We're starving Cuba right now. And this is all separate from what you're talking about, sex trafficking, but is it? Is it? Because these crimes are coming from like the same worldview and belief system
I have
that
this like
people with money and power deserve. They have a right to the bodies of people without it,
right.
fundamentally.
And then I have this like strange theory at the root level because I draw everything back to somatics and like the energies and emotions that are distorted. But I have this like strange theory that I truly believe that like if like the energies of anger and sexuality could actually be corrected, like this creative energy that is also that creates life, that creates love, that creates like shakti, aliveness in the world, is distorted into control and power. You know, we talk about like how perpetrators are people who were victims themselves. Like, I do truly believe that if we could heal like these energies, distorted energies of sexuality at the root level, and to reclaim and rebalance them as vitality and life force and creation, it would heal the world. And what you're talking about, like, you know, the men's protective rage, like, we also have chopped their balls off during Me Too because of the feminist reactions against men and like the what they have done with their rage in a harmful way. But then we've like then suppressed all of their rage, and that's also not a healthy place for men to be either. And there was something that our Vedic astrologer said about like the rebalancing of the masculine feminine right now that is partially like part of women's work is to teach men that they're supposed to be guardians and not warriors.
Yeah. That's what Sophie Strand has a great book on that, The Flowering
Mm,
Wand,
mm,
about rewilding the sacred masculine. I just started reading it, but she's talking about how, like, the archetypal, like, in mythology, we have this idea of the masculine as a warrior, but in a lot of global folklore and mythology, the masculine is also the magician, the
mm-hmm.
flowering wand. He holds a staff or a, you know, something that creates growth, Dionysus or Gandalf, you know, take your pick, but from the one story that we know. But like that is a really cool masculine archetype too, and like bringing men back to that, I think is also really beautiful. And I want to keep reading that. But yeah, I think like yeah, I also just hear when you're saying like we as women like our anger cut their balls off. I think that men also need to take a little credit. Like, we're doing our work to say, like, okay, men didn't just like abuse us. Like, we also walked ourselves into those rooms. We believed what the system told us that that would make us safe. Like, we need to take that personal responsibility so that we can really free ourselves from that system. Similarly, I think that it's fair to say that, like, yes, the cultural conditions have been quite extreme and the message has been very mixed for men in America. Yes, that's true. And like, did we cut their balls off? Because like we haven't tried that yet. We could actually. Just kidding.
I don't
But
know about you,
like,
but
did
I've done some fucked up shit to men.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I have too. But um, um, yeah, maybe that's my misconception. Maybe the idea of the man as the protective warrior is actually just part and participle of the patriarchal. It's part of the same lie.
Mm,
And what you just said, that our astrologer said, and what I was just thinking of is like, maybe that's really the whole thing. Maybe I'm expecting something that was never their gift, or like,
right.
or good for men, because what would they really use that for? Going to war? Like, do we want that? No.
Well, hunting a bison for food, like if we think back in
Yes,
time, and
sure,
protecting
sure. But that
tribally.
is not, but that's like going to war, I guess. But yeah, like having defensive skills,
Huh.
sure. Yes.
Right. Right. Like it
But
served
yeah.
something before, but it's like maybe in our evolution, like how in the past we, like if we were in tribal societies, we needed our men to protect us. But
Mm,
it is us who possess the also feminine qualities of nurturing and mothering,
yeah.
like to help men understand it's okay for them to have that. Like in my relationship, I feel like this comes up in sexuality where like my partner, the languaging has been like, "Oh, I want to be thrown around by a masculine man who like
Mm,
can take me," and then they don't really get to see much of like it being okay to be slow and to nurture
mm,
and be mothering. And um my partner had kind of expressed, we were in a sexual trauma training together, and he had expressed in our, well, I don't know if I should be saying in this, I guess I'll cut it out if he does not want me to put this in here.
huh,
um but I think in our group he expressed that he felt like he had more of his feminine energies, like he felt more comfortable in his feminine energies, and he had shame
mhm.
from his own sexual trauma that he wasn't, like he
Yeah,
was scared of his masculine energies and sexuality. And I
sure.
was like, but I experience him to be one of the most masculine men that I've ever been with. And maybe he'll let me like keep that in there because I just said that. um, because this part of him that nurtures and takes care of, like, to me, that is the divine masculine. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I think in that thing that you just said, it like points to, I think we've really oversimplified the idea of what the masculine can really offer and the feminine. And I think that they have been used as tools of empire. Just like I'm really, I'm seeing this like as we're talking about it, like our femininity, our basic urge for resolution, compassion, grace, self-reflection, individual responsibility, that is a wonderful thing in us, but it has been somewhat weaponized against us and what we're talking about in these crimes that have happened to us as individuals, to our people, to other women, writ large. Same thing with men, where it's like this idea of the masculine is being used. And I guess this also like kind of intersects with the manosphere. I don't know if you saw the documentary, but just like that whole culture, where there's like this idea of what a man is, and it's just like almost insane. It's like very diluted, and but it comes to this idea of like we're going to be like the protector, we're going to be strong. And in modern America capitalism, that just means rich. They just mean we want a lot of money, we just want to have cars and houses and be able to show that off. But it's too simplified, and it's like not really what masculinity is and offers. And to what you just said, like there's something so masculine and so, like, I see it with my partner. It's just like it's so masculine the way that he cares. I mean,
mm,
my boyfriend cooks every meal. I don't cook at all.
Oh,
And
that's so
he loves cooking,
sweet. Hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, and like he just did it last night, he like buys the groceries, he comes over, he like brings his little groceries over, like sets up the kitchen. I come in, he's got all the pots going. It's like his little laboratory in there. He puts his podcast in, he just like listens and
Oh,
cooks. It's so cute and it's so sweet and it's so masculine to me because it's so um
providing.
like providing, yeah,
Yeah.
and caring, and so yeah,
I,
I guess, yeah, we can expand our vision of the masculine, basically.
okay, to sum it up on both sides, I feel like, and this has been long a fantasy of mine, and I do see my work moving here with a male practitioner, whether that be my partner or someone else. Like to have, there's so much men's work groups and there's women's work groups, like what I do in Awakening the Wild Woman. Um, and my vision would be to have like co-ed groups to hold space for both the masculine and the feminine for us to come together and process and integrate these energies and
Mm,
pains and hurts together.
mm,
And it just feels
mm,
like from the women's side, it's like what we need to do, which we are doing, is owning where I have been reactive based on my own history, the history of the lineage of all the women
mm,
that have been raped and tortured and killed at the hands of men.
mhm,
I'm
mhm,
owning where I'm being unfair and pointing the finger at my guy friends or partners. And I'm taking
mhm,
self responsibility for how I can hold containment in
mhm,
myself, but also allow
mhm,
myself to have safe spaces to rage and be in like my
mm,
animal body because that is energy that
mhm.
needs to move. And it is very,
Yeah.
it's a correct response to crimes happening and nothing like nobody taking
Yeah.
accountability
Yeah.
for it. So that's the woman's side.
Mhm.
Then the men's side is like, can we ask men to not be defensive? Can we ask you to do your
Yeah.
own work, to be with the defense and doesn't mean you have to hold endless space for our rage, but can you just not
Mhm.
personalize it? Can you just
Yeah.
be with? Can you just witness the force of like the sacred feminine fire, even if it's messy,
Yeah.
even if it's like kind of clumsy and like a teenager, but it's not about
Yeah.
you. Can you just remove yourself for a
Yeah.
moment and just witness and be with and allow that charge to move through so
Mhm.
that then we can be together, you know? Um,
Yeah. Well, I love what you're saying about witnessing it because I do think, like, yes, we have our spaces. And I want to say that to like anyone listening who does not, who's like, wait a second, you're skipping. Because I feel like it's like, yeah, the rage is there. And like, let's try and be in a relationship with men. For sure, there's not like, you don't just go from one to the next. And like, I feel like even in the last few months, it's become like even clearer to me how much I need like Body Temple and Temple of Wild Lovers and just like the women that I know from that group. Because when I finally like am just like, fuck, I'm so mad, I'm so frustrated, I'm so angry at men, I'm so angry at this, I'm so angry at that. And we just like have a space to kind of like rage together, or like type it all out, or voice note each other, or just like dance with it, sing with it, with the amazing Ali Call. But just like, we have that space, and that's really important. And I think it's like a lifeline. And what you're asking for is like, do we have to like go away to our own little like women's group in order to do that? Like, can you not just see it? Like, can you not hold it?
Obviously, relational wounds are healed in relationship. And so we can have our men's
Mm,
groups, we can have our women's groups for these safe spaces, but like, when are we going to come together and
come
just witness
together.
each
Yeah.
other and hold each other in the pain? And so
Yeah.
that's like that is like a dream. It just feels like the next step. And I know it's already happening in different
Mm,
ways through like sacred sexuality practice and intimacy, but I do feel like there's something very charged around these exact issues that I have been getting in, kinks in
mm,
all of my relationships, right? Like of men's issues of like them being exposed to porn so young and like having that to as a crutch, which obviously trains their whole dopamine system to be attracted to the male gaze because that's what they see in porn, and then how else would that play out but for them to enact it in real life and to chase seduction and
Hmm.
attraction and certain types of bodies. And then that hits our wounding of being told that our appearance is our most valuable asset and that our power comes from seducing men or like being attractive.
Hmm.
And these like systemic issues, you know, us needing spaces to rage about like the pain, and then men needing spaces to embody their rage as healthy again.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's amazing. That sounds like a good start. And in general, I just think like where I was feeling a month ago is still how I'm feeling, in that just like, yeah, this doesn't mean to your male partner if you're a woman and a straight woman, but just literally everywhere else, I have the feeling of like, just don't hold back. Like, in terms of telling the truth and being really clear about what's happened to us, because I've found, just as a form of self therapy, because, and in order for what you're talking about to work, like we ourselves have to be able to show what's actually going on so that a man can perceive it and vice versa. And like in my relationship, it's really become clear recently how unable I am to like ask for something directly because I just don't have any training in it. And I'm so habituated, especially from childhood, with like having a father who like would like hit me or kick me or ostracize me or, shut me in a room by myself if I asked for the wrong thing at the wrong time. I very early on learned never to ask for anything directly, to always kind of
Mm-hmm.
beat around the bush, lead the horse to water, to, basically what a lot of male partners have since called manipulation, which, sure. Um, I don't care to stigmatize it. But it is like frustrating because even when I'm trying to do it, I've spent, 35 years training myself out of doing that. So, just like my practice right now is really so much, I'm trying to just really be clear and direct about what I want and what I perceive and what I believe to be true. Because that's what I think really was so painful, as we're talking about one of the big pains of like the Epstein files becoming public to us, was that similar pain to what you're talking about happened the day after your rape, which was that you yourself swallowed it and smiled in the face of the person who did it and said, yeah, nothing happened and everything's okay. And we have done that as women, as a society, for so long. And there's like a real pain that comes from doing that. And I want to figure out how to train us, starting with myself, to speak up, not in a way that's like, I'm going to kill you. It's just like, no, this is what happened. Like,
Mm.
I'm just going to say it clearly and
Right.
directly.
Right. Right.
Like I came up in the film industry in my early 20s, in which I was very much trained never to say anything directly. And, especially if I perceived someone acting poorly or badly in a position of power, like very important to beat around the bush and never directly name that, and to like, act as if it's okay. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to do that. And like this morning, I was listening to Sophia Isela, who I've mentioned to you before. She's like 20. She gives me so much hope for, you know, the future because she's 20, and I guess she is amazing. But she just like, she doesn't dress for the male gaze at all. She wears like big baggy t-shirts. She fucks her hair up, and she's like clearly gorgeous, but she just like looks like shit. And she has this song where she's like, I'll be out in your lawn covered in snot. I can get away with so much shit because you think I'm hot.
Mm.
And it's just like so good. She just calls it out. She just is like, yeah, men are touching themselves to pictures of little girls. And like, men, there's a song that she has where she's like, the doll people, where she's like, the woman who doesn't want it is much hotter than one who does.
Mm.
And just like stuff that like she just puts it so clearly. It's not like, and fuck you, stupid men, you should all go to jail. It's just like, you guys are all looking at pictures of children, just so you know. And it's like that straight kind of like talk that we don't have any experience in because we've been trained to like everything that we do still make it palatable, still make it like, you know, make it so that society will still function okay after you've said it. And I'm like so fucking sick of it. I don't want a society that can't contain the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think we can if we just say it,
Oh, I
you
think
know?
everybody wants the truth now. I mean, I think that's what we're gravitating towards for sure. And
Yeah.
earlier you were saying something about shadow consciousness and like it is so I'm just going to speak from the woman's part and what you just said to like
Hmm.
us making everything palatable and glazing over it, but
Hmm.
like me needing to admit in myself the places of my own shadow where I have really taken the seductress and I've run with it, and how I've bought into the creepy pedophilia and like owning that part and saying what's true about that part in myself. You know, like
Hmm.
when me and my partner, my ex, were going through like the porn stuff and I was like pointing the finger, like, you're a perpetrator, you're disgusting, you love like little girls and the male gaze and stuff. And, you know, this is from my own wounding of being raised by a father who was very patriarchal, who like compared my body to models. Like he used to date on like he had a girlfriends that were like 16 when he was 32 and has like put them in the hospital from like abuse, and very much would like pick my body apart growing up, just like monitoring like, oh, Tammy's not as fat as I thought, her torso's just really short, or like Tammy's nose is too flat, or like, you know, telling me that the old Navy clothes I wanted to wear to be cool were fat people's clothes, and would take me shopping to wear things that were sexier and cooler to the way that he had
Hmm.
been groomed and sexualized. And,
Hmm.
you know, like my Western therapist will say that I experienced sexual abuse. And it's hard for me to say that because I do see the place that it was unconscious in him and how he did love me, but did impress his male gaze and his idea of what women should look like sexually onto
Yeah.
me. And then
You were
in
still
my
taking advice from a criminal, you know,
right, I
fundamentally.
know, and it's hard for
Yeah.
me to even hold that truth that he technically isn't a criminal that has abused women. Like he's abused every woman before my
Mm.
mom.
Mm.
And you know, and yeah, that's hard. And it's like so covert in my
Yeah.
upbringing that like, you know, because it never happened. He
Yeah.
didn't lay a finger on me, but it was in the
Mm.
field.
Mm.
But then like the shadow, and I've hesitated to ever mention this fact, but I will. When I was reading Peter Levine's book on sexual trauma, he talks about a certain stage in every father's life where his woman becomes a teenager and she starts to
Hmm.
embody and look like the woman that the father fell in love with. And because we
Sure.
have such no education and such distortion around how to handle the energies of attraction, fathers often at around that age withdraw from the daughter,
Exile. Yeah.
exile,
Right.
and then the
Hmm.
girl develops the daddy issues because it's like, where did the attachment go, where did the attunement go, and
Hmm.
then becomes like the archetype of like the
Hmm.
pick me girl of like, how can I be perfect enough for
Hmm.
daddy to notice me, right? And so then
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, how can I dress right for daddy, how can I be attractive for daddy, how can, you know,
Right.
and then that goes out into
Sure.
men. And so, like, back to the shadow piece of me, even in my vitriol against my ex, I went through this phase of like, I started diving into porn and looking at like the younger girls that
Mm.
he was saying he was attracted to, and like feeling the place in me that was like erotically turned on by that. And like, I had this whole
Yeah.
pleasure practice. It was like this dark dungeon shadow pleasure practice moment
Hmm.
of like getting off. This is so existential kink, but getting off to the very thing that I had been harmed by, because there is something in me that is like
Yeah.
still turned on by it too. And like part
Yeah.
of my healing to
Yeah.
own that and to really allow that energy to move through me.
Yeah. I think there's like an offering here. It's just in that, and it's certainly connected to like your own performance art that you've done that I've seen you do, where I think it's really important, like not to, yeah, like villainize like seduction or sexual energy or like, you know, eroticism, even around kinky things like that exist. And I don't think is even bad, because I wanted to mention too, like something that when you had made your post on Instagram after your Substack article. There was something about like how to kind of decolonize the, your mind from the male gaze. And a friend of mine reached out to me and she was a little bit troubled by it because she was saying like, well, but I think like I really enjoy seduction and being seductive, and I don't think that that's because men put that on me. I think I just really like that. Like, I
Mm,
don't want to get rid of that in me, is basically what she was saying. And I really believe her. I mean, she has like a very different, she's never had like a very colonized idea of what like a woman's body should look like. She's never
mm,
been like into thinness or, like whiteness
mm-hmm,
in that way. And so I really believe her. And she's also really always enjoyed seduction and being like a little hoe and a little slut, like,
mm-hmm.
and I think that that's, and like I was saying earlier, like there are goddesses in all world mythologies where that are archetypically just like hot. They've got their
Well,
tits
the
out, they're
temple
ready to fuck,
whores, the
they're
sacred
like
slut.
gorgeous. Yeah. Or just like not even like for God. They're just like, I'm
Right.
hot and I got a lot to give and I want to seduce. I enjoy the pleasure of drawing a man towards me, or I enjoy like, so it's like that's what makes these things complicated, because I think that that energy can be really beautiful, really generative, really
Totally. I
creative,
love
and all
seducing.
of that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and yeah, I think that's okay. I think that's good. I don't think that
Totally.
anybody made you that way, or like no crime happened to create that in you. It just is also like your fetish and your, pleasure is still your own. And I think I just wanted to like make that, distinction as well, of like not to shame that, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I
Because
think it's
like
about
I'm trying to
teasing
write
apart.
these.
It's like teasing out the parts
Yeah.
that have been like that harmed and controlled to make us use
Yeah.
our seduction in order to gain power from them versus let our seduction be our own vital, expression of sexuality and
Yeah.
of, you
Right.
know.
Like I'm trying to write these little like sexy romance stories to make some money. And I wrote a bunch of them and I was really avoiding doing the teacher archetype because I was like, no, like I'm kind of past that. Like, it's not, I don't want to like, I don't want to celebrate, like looking for someone in power to own me or whatever. But then I just wrote one and I was like, no, this is still like really hot. And it was just about this like little rich girl who's like a painting teacher, and she doesn't want to like do the lessons, but he's like stern and he's like, you just don't understand like discipline, And he's like, I can't have sex with you because I have to be the painting teacher to all these rich girls. It's so good. But it's so good. And it's like, I'm just like, no, in the like realm of play, like this is really sexy still. And I don't think it's like valorizing or celebrating like I need old men or something, but it is like it's sexy. It's sexy to be like, oh, I don't know about the world and like you do. And so share that with me, So
Hmm.
even in all of this, even as I'm sitting here saying I've been so harmed by these like teachers and mentors and people in power who have taken advantage of me, I still find that fundamentally very sexy. Not that part, but
Totally.
just like so
Well, like,
that's
and
interesting.
the whole point of all this healing is like not to villainize and make something bad and wrong, because that's also a suppression of
Yeah,
energy, but it's more like, yeah, the
right.
ways that I've been harmed by my father or society or porn or whatever took away my connection to my seduction being mine and like loving. Like, can I
Hmm.
just one of my characters that you'll love lately
Yeah.
in bed,
Uh-huh.
she's moaning.
Okay. Moaning.
She's She's a she's a Chinese like massage parlor like happy ending.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
She like gives hand jobs at the end of her massages, and like me and my partner go into this whole thing where he's like moaning, like, "Are you open?" And I'm like, "It's 6 o'clock. Come back tomorrow. Close right now. I cooked dinner at home for my husband.
You're like
Closed."
you're like extreme, you're a busy lady. You have work to do. You have 5 minutes for a hand job, but that's it. That's that's the
Yeah.
character.
Yeah. And it's like so methodical. Like it's just so part of my job.
Oh, that's awesome. It's so funny.
But moaning, can't you? Don't you just have 5 minutes? No, close. Sorry, close today. Come back six a.m. tomorrow.
You're right. Like, this is a whole area to talk about because the fantasy and play realm is such a space to like
Heal.
help and say heal these energies. Yes. And
Yes.
especially in relationship. Yeah. Because I've been doing that with, my boyfriend too. It's like, yeah,
Yeah. So
we'll be
this was
like,
like
oh my God, there's so much built up here. Like, I wish we were just meeting each other now. Like, I wish we didn't know each other at all. So then we play that. We're like, beyond, it's
right.
like we'll be out in public and he's like, oh, hey, I just, saw you from across the bar. Like, wondered if I could get you a drink. And, it's so fun and sexy. And it like immediately opens up a space that even though it isn't like our real life, it opens it up for us. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And that's been my exploration this past year is that there's so much in the realm of BDSM and kink that is really healing and that I think really can repattern sexual trauma by having like reparative
Mm.
scene experiences.
Like I feel like play is such a space and performance is like a very literally safe space to take these energies to.
Because you can like both demonize and revel in the energies and like when you're talking about like how hot it is like the to have the painting teacher and
Hmm.
also for me like I have such a kink around like the 14-year-old like underage like me playing that character because it's my own trauma and in my
Yeah.
trauma healing training, we did do that one day where we went into like what is our biggest fantasy that always comes up and then like going and
Mm,
finding like what is actually the unmet need that we wanted and like for me the
mm,
word that came was protection and I started crying because
mm.
obviously that's just what I didn't get from my high school sweetheart which I really wished that he could have protected me from that
Yeah.
abuse, right? But yeah, just the healing potential around reclaiming seduction and
Hmm.
sexuality through
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah. Because I feel like definitely we want to reclaim it. We don't want to like say
Suppress
that
it.
seduction is only like a tool of the patriarchy,
Right.
or something. Like, no, it just got very muddied.
Distorted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
distorted. But the energy in and of itself is really wonderful and invigorating and especially like what I love about your performance too is that it was not just truthful, it was also very funny. The funny part was the way that you turned around and suddenly started like, taking sexual control of this force and entity that was like very clearly dangerous. To take those really dangerous energies and like almost like nullify them with play is really powerful. I think it's really cool. I love that.
Right. There's kind of like a archetype of like a jester here that I really love exploring
Yeah.
in performance too, like taking something so
Yes.
fucked up and dark and like bringing it to the audience in this way where people are both laughing and at the same time like what the fuck, you
Like,
know?
should I be laughing at this? Yeah.
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 And I do feel
Yeah.
like it
I like
gives
that.
their nervous systems resource to process something that might otherwise feel too traumatizing to talk about or
Mm,
address. So I'm excited for you to
yeah.
teach again in Awakening the Wild Woman. Like the feedback last year was
Yeah.
like, even somebody, past participant who was an actress, right? She said it was like a profoundly healing experience for her to have space for her
Mm,
story and for her own energy and like to be in
mm,
relationship with her ancestors and for us to witness that. I mean, I have chills like
yeah.
remembering that moment
Yeah. That was amazing. Yeah, that's making me excited. I really am excited to do that with you.
and getting to create a space that we really needed. Like it's our whole lives, it's
Yeah.
been me and you like over wine, like talking about these fucked up
Yeah. Like,
shadow parts of ourselves, But to have
yeah.
like a
Yeah.
group where we get to do that and to work it, and
Yeah.
it's so healing
Yeah.
and fun.
It really is. And fun.
Well, I love you. Thank you.
Okay. I love you too.
Sun come with him one day, taste the roots. He was born from passing the story how all hands came together as one.